Hi everyone and welcome to Protocol 36. With all of us now being a year away from the release of Marvel Spider-Man 2 and hopefully get some news and gameplay later on this year, building up the hype once again and see the different types of suits we might get once the game comes out. But one recommendation I received from MickeyXS11, who has a channel of his own where he does a lot of live streams, I recommend you subscribe to him, asked if Insomniac will bring the Raimi and TASM homemade suits in Marvel Spider-Man 2, the Human Spider and the Vigilante suit respectively, which is what this video will be about. But before we get started, if at any point you enjoyed this video, I really appreciate if you could drop a like, as that would really help out the channel. Thank you. Both Spider-Man PS4 and Spider-Man Miles Morales have their own fair share of homemade suits being available in the respective games. Like in Marvel Spider-Man, it was of course the wrestling suit, being heavily inspired by the wrestling suit in the Ultimate Spider-Man comic books, and canonically in the Insomniac universe, Peter did actually use that suit when he got his powers and tried to use it to make money, which eventually led to the death of Uncle Ben in 2010. And the other homemade suit in that game is of course MCU's homemade suit, which Tom Holland's Peter Parker wears in his first 6 months as Spider-Man, as well as using the suit in the third act of Spider-Man Homecoming, after Iron Man took the stock suit from him, which he made for him in Captain America Civil War, forcing him to go back to basics to stop the Vulture. I will most likely make another appearance in the Disney Plus show Spider-Man Freshman Year, which is supposed to be a prequel to both Civil War and Homecoming. And of course for Spider-Man Miles Morales, it was the homemade suit which appeared in the 616 comics, retconning his origin story after the events of 2015's Secret Wars, where his mother Rio also returned from the dead. Also the sportswear suit being the very first outfit we see Miles wear in the story and fights Rhino in, and lastly the Bodega cat suit, if you want to count that one as well, as it does look homemade, which is the outfit we get after finishing the story and complete the cat's pajamas side mission. So with both games having at least 2 versions of the homemade suits as unlockables, will Insomniac also do the same for Marvel Spider-Man 2, but this time with Raimi's Human Spider suit in 2002 Spider-Man and the Vigilante suit we see Andrew Garfield wear in the Amazing Spider-Man 1. Even though both of those suits didn't have a lot of screen times in the respective first Spider-Man films, they do hold a pretty great significance in their stories, and even a suit like the Human Spider was a fan favorite for years, and still is today, being used in pretty hilarious memes, not to mention how iconic it is as well, given how when Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker was wearing it, it was during the transition from him using his powers for self-interest to actually becoming a hero for New York, leading to him eventually getting the classic Raimi suit, which we thankfully got in Spider-Man PS4, and was actually a suit people wanted too, and given how unique it looks, it is something that would make a pretty great addition to the sequel. The thing I can see Insomniac having trouble with when adding the suit into the game is of course the eyes, as unlike the other suits, the mask doesn't have any lenses showing his eyes, and of course instead of Tobey's blue eyes, they would have to replace it with Insomniac's Peter Parker's brown eyes, and pretty much animate it in every cutscene in the game. It's not impossible, but it is something I can see Insomniac spending a lot of time on alone, but I think once that's done, it would be worth it and would look great, though to be fair, that is easier said than done, but I have no doubt given Insomniac's talents that it can still be done if they were to add that suit. Furthermore, when it comes to the Vigilante suit from the Amazing Spider-Man series, even though it isn't as loved as the other homemade suits, I still think it would make a very good addition to the game. I would make it feel more complete too, even if it doesn't really resemble Spider-Man except for the mask, but it is kind of like the ESU suit where it's just Spider-Man in a Peter Parker outfit. Plus we haven't really seen that suit in a Spider-Man game in just under 10 years and 20 years when it comes to the Human Spider suit in their respective movie tie-in games, so having them actually in Marvel Spider-Man 2 would be pretty awesome, and I hope they at least consider it, especially when we already have the MCU's homemade suit, so it's only fair the same thing happens for both Tobey's and Andrew's homemade suits, especially now that we saw those 2 versions come back in Spider-Man No Way Home. As to why both those suits weren't in the first game, it's most likely due to legal reasons, and that it's much easier to add Tom Holland's suits since he's the current live action Spider-Man, so it's a given. But after No Way Home and Sony currently showing more love for the other past movies by promoting them for people to buy to get ready for the Spider-Man No Way Home digital release in a couple weeks on the 22nd of March. So will Insomniac bring those 2 homemade suits in Marvel Spider-Man 2? I actually think there's a chance, especially when they put in both the Raimi suit and the first TASM suit in Marvel Spider-Man. It doesn't mean that they will for sure, but if there's enough demand for it, I think they could add those in, and by demand I mean to just request them to put them in the game, and to not constantly nag them like with what happened with the Raimi suit, especially when live action suits like these are going to have a lot of legal restrictions they would have to overcome just to have them in the next game. So if they were going to be in it, I don't think both of them will be in the game on day 1, and may get added sometime after the game has already came out, but that's just my opinion and I could 100% be wrong. However, what about you guys? Do you think Insomniac will bring the Raimi and TASM homemade animated suits in Marvel Spider-Man 2? If so, if not, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please like, and one more subscribe. To begin, Protocol 36.